I'm watching. Are we on PEG? I don't see our. Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the Clearlake City Council meeting held in Clearlake City Council chambers at 14050 Olympic Drive in Clearlake, California. Our meeting procedures are as follows. All items on the agenda will be open to public comment before any final action is taken. Citizens wishing to introduce any written material into the record at a public meeting or on any item are requested to provide a copy of that written material to our Administrative Services Director or City Clerk prior to the meeting so that that material can be distributed to City Council members. Speakers must restrict their comments and items as it appears on the agenda and stay within the 3 minutes time limit. The mayor has discretion of limiting the total discussion time for each. We're meeting here publicly, but our Councilmember Slotin is meeting us via Zoom. And we'd like to welcome him.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Slotin.
Present.
Councilmember Overton.
Here.
Councilmember Kramer.
Here.
Vice Mayor Claffey.
Here.
Mayor Purdock.
Here. Councilman Kramer, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I'd be happy to. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. If you'd like to please join me or prepare yourself for prayer, I'd like to make a short invocation. Our kind and generous Father in heaven, we ask that your presence would be with us tonight to help lead and guide us as we do the business for the city of Clearlake, to better serve those who live, visit, and work here in this jurisdiction. Father, we also ask for a blessing for this country as we try to recognize and somehow understand the violence that we've experienced over the past few weeks and months, that others unfortunately take such violent action and have hurt and taken the lives of so many. Doesn't matter race, color, or creed. We just ask that your spirit would be with those in leadership positions to bless them with the knowledge and awareness to make decisions that will help remedy this, to support those who are struggling with mental health and behavioral health issues, that they can find that peace that they need and hopefully resolve this so no more would have to suffer and die at the hands of a violent attack. Father, we ask for all these things through your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. And in his name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you all very much. Mr. Fleur, any changes to the agenda?
No modifications, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Kramer and a second by the Vice Mayor to adopt the agenda. All those in favor, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Councilmember Slotin.
Aye.
Councilmember Overton.
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
And Mayor Purdock.
Aye. At this time, we're going to open up for public comment. Public comment is a time for members of the public to address the City Council on any matter not on the agenda, but is within the subject matter and jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow for the council and staff to discuss issues brought before us tonight. But we may be able to direct you to a member of our staff who could help you if you have those concerns. Remember, council cannot take action on non-agenda items. So at that time, I'd like to open this up for public comment. I do have one request for public comment by Mr. Alan Markowitz, or Markowski, I apologize. Mr. Markowski, if you're here, the time is now yours.
Do you have a way to keep track of the time?
We do.
Don't keep it.
We have trained professionals.
My name is Alan Joseph Markowski. I'm 72 years old. I was here back in 2000, about 3, 4. I was a station manager. Just wanted to give a little background. I'm a person who studies a lot. I dedicate myself for the entire time that I was PEG station manager. It was free. I vote. You remember me?
Yep.
Yeah. And so I'm coming back because in this period of time that I've been away, I've had a couple of strokes. So I can't really express myself. So I appreciate you listening. But I really care a lot about this community. It pains me to see the stuff that's going on. I have a hard time containing my feelings. The homeless, that concerns me a lot. I'm a numerologist. That's a person who does numbers I had given to you, so you can look at that. But it's basically, you find on every cell phone, every device that we carry in our hands. When you see a thing that's simple like that. I'll bring it up so I can see it myself, to remind myself what I'm seeing. But it's the keypad. But you notice it doesn't read right on a telephone when you actually go to use it. It's a different thing altogether. I'm a numerologist, and I talked to Alan about this, that I would be coming back here again. So it's not as important that I discuss it now. I'd like to put it on the agenda sometime in the future after I've had the opportunity to talk with each one of you. But we're looking for technology. The greatest technology that ever happened on this planet was the alphabet. And the alphabet came into being through the Hebrews. And there were 22 letters in the alphabet. And if you look at the alphabet, it's very, very unique. It was really striking for mankind because it affected the whole planet. The Bible was written out of that. So it was very, very important. And it brought together, if you study, I had been a minister, one of Jehovah's Witnesses at one time, a practicing Jehovah's Witness. So I learned a little bit about Hebrew. In the Hebrew, like I said, there's 22 letters in the alphabet, and each letter starts off the same. It starts with a little glyph, just a little curve in it. Every single letter is the same, but each one is different. So there's kind of like a DNA, you might say, running through the whole alphabet. But that little glyph that you would recognize, if I said out the Hebrew, you just know it's different because you can't read it. But each
That is your time, so if you could
Okay,
just wrap it up, sir.
That's fine. Well, so each one of those letters, it wasn't just a glyph. It stood for a letter, it stood for a number, and it stood for a concept. The first letter, which is an A, that's how it all started.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to make public comment, please step to the podium. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, is there anyone who would, in Zoom, that would like to make a comment?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Well, in that case, it's time for February's adoptable dogs. And I saw someone here. Lieutenant, do we have a guest?
Yes, we do, sir.
He's pretty.
It's okay, President Mayo.
What was that?
Tell us this in the camera, so here in the camera here.
Hello, I'm Alyssa. Today I brought Maya with me. She is a 3-year-old shepherd mix. She gets along great with other dogs and is currently housed with another shepherd that is also available. His name's Terry. No on cats. She loves to cuddle in your lap, and she is the perfect amount of energy and calm right in between. We're open Tuesday through Saturday, 9 to 6, if anyone wants to come down and take a tour of the shelter and find your new best friend.
Perfect, right on cue.
Oh, and she is spayed and up to date on all vaccinations.
She's beautiful.
Yes.
Switch out here?
Anybody?
I do, but. Keep going. Okay. So February 1st, 23 animals got transferred out of the Clearlake shelter to the Petaluma shelter. That would be 12 dogs, 4 big dogs, 8 puppies, and 11 cats, all of our cats that we had housed at the shelter. So
Wonderful.
the cat room is empty,
Good.
and we're working on the dogs. Another good thing that happened, Babs got adopted January 30th. She was a longtime resident at the shelter.
Great.
So she's really happy, has a family of her own. We've got continued improvement on the spay and neuter of the sheltered animals. Every Wednesday, we have 1 spay and 1 neuter go, as well as 1 to 2 exams, depending on injuries, medical issues we have. We're partnered with Clearlake Veterinary Clinic. Another good thing that was done was there was siding added onto the shop building because there were cracks in the bottom to hold in the heat for the heater in the shop. So that's doing good, just keeping the cold air out and keeping the heat in with
That's good.
this weird weather. And that's all I got.
So how many dogs are in the shelter now then?
I do not have a number. I wasn't sent numbers.
Okay.
He might. Yeah, he does.
Okay, oh, you're going to,
Thank you very much for your presentation.
thank you.
All right, members of the council, how you doing tonight? I got these numbers from Mark Scott with North Bay about an hour ago. We had, since the beginning of the year, we've had 108 dogs come in the shelter. We've currently had 35 dogs leave the shelter. We've had 16 go to rescue. We've had 15 return to the owner. We've had 3 adopted. We've had no euthanization. We have had 1 dog either die or lost in care. I'm unaware of what the circumstances were behind that. Are you familiar with that? Sometimes the dogs will literally run out of the kennel and they can't recapture them. We're currently at 100% live release rate.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
I have a question.
We have a question.
I do have a question. May I ask it?
Absolutely.
When they go to Petaluma, are they a no-kill facility?
Yes.
Okay. I was just curious about that.
They have a lot more resources up there. We're still working on that down here. You know, the contract's still new. So they get a lot more adoptions than we do down here. So whenever they can, we try to transfer animals up there because they get out a lot quicker than they do down here.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so Lieutenant, there's 70 approximately in the shelter now?
Approximately, yes.
And isn't that kind of over our limit on our facility?
Well, we don't have a set number for the facility. We are at maximum capacity, yes.
Very good. Any other questions?
Nope.
Lieutenant Snyder, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the good work you do.
Yeah, maybe.
He wants to jump in your lap. Come on.
I think he wants to go home
Take
with
him
you,
home.
Rick.
Take him home. Bessie will love him.
Yeah. Okay. It's now time for a presentation, a proclamation declaring February 2023 as Black History Month. And I have the pleasure of being selected to make this proclamation for the city council, city staff, and President Mayo, if you'd like to join me at the podium. Thank you, sir. Actually, if you want to come over here, then we're on TV. Everybody likes to see us on TV, right? Absolutely. So you can see yourself there on the monitor. Thank you. With me, I have President Rick Mayo of the AND. Would you like to introduce?
NAACP. This is Greta Zayed.
Greta is our branch secretary.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And the proclamation. Whereas in February 2023, in the city of Clearlake, California, the Lake County branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, is officially celebrating Black History Month which dates back to 1926, when Dr. Carter G. Woodson set aside a special period of time in February to recognize the heritage and achievements of Black Americans. And whereas, while the history of Black Americans is also the story of countless nameless heroes brought to our shores who endured lives of bondage and oppression, the deprivation of their civil rights, and ravages of bigotry and racism, it is a history for which most of the chapters have yet to be written, as Black Americans contribute to the American promise. And whereas for generations, African Americans have strengthened our nation by urging reforms, overcoming obstacles, and breaking down barriers. And whereas visionary leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., Jamie Jackson, John Lewis, Medgar Evers, Viola Luzo, Elijah Cummings, African American military veterans, and the NAACP have been at the forefront of protecting voting rights of the people of color in this country and continuing addressing voter suppression, gerrymandering, and urging the passing of John Lewis Voter Rights Advancement Act and the Freedom to Vote Act will ensure all citizens' right to vote and are protected under the Constitution of the United States. Whereas the Lake County branch of the NAACP is dedicated to the principle fostering of civic, economic, and educational programs and social justice throughout the city of Clearlake, and is dedicated to encouraging reflections of rich history and teaching of African Americans and bearing witness to the progress, beauty, and achievements they have made throughout the community. Whereas it is fitting that we set aside this month special time to acknowledge the important segment of this community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the City of Clearlake encourages all citizens to join in celebrating the diversity of character in our community and highlighting the importance of sharing our culture, customs, and traditions with those around us. Dated this day. President Mayo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've been doing this a long time here in the city of Clearlake, and I'm always proud to represent the local chapter. And during this time of the year, with the presentation of this proclamation from the public officials here in the city of Clearlake, I just can't say enough good things about you guys.
Thank you, sir. And
we really do appreciate it. Also, we still have a lot of work that we need to continue to do. In the city of Clearlake has one of the largest disabled populations of the county. A lot of people are in wheelchairs like myself. We have a lot of people that are considered needing caregivers that are disabled. We have a lot of issues unfortunately, not only in the city of Clearlake, so I'm not going to just single out the city, but in the entire county, dealing with ADA and being in ADA compliance. And I've been talking to city manager. Last year, we were able to bring some businesses in ADA compliance, understand, and with the engineer, I think it was, I was working with. And I was real happy that we were able to do that. And I'm looking forward to continuing working with the city and working with the city manager and other city council members to bring our city within ADA compliance. So I want to thank you very much for this proclamation. Thank all the council members, each and every one of you. And I don't want to leave out the chief of police because him and I have been working closely together since Andrew left. And I'm really proud of the collaboration that we've had with the new chief. So with that, I want to thank you very much for this proclamation, Mr. Mayor.
thank you. And thank you for coming all the way down and being with us tonight. Both of you, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next on the agenda is a presentation by our police department. It's the annual report. Chief Hobbs?
Thank you, Mayor.
I love that picture.
Me too. I was just gonna say, that's a beautiful picture.
Thank you. I think that's compliments of Officer Shores. I think most of the ones where it has the background and the nice sky views were taken by her. So quickly, I just want to go over our mission to enhance public safety by providing professional, trustworthy service in partnership with the community. That's been our mission for quite a while. We strive to make sure all of our employees are working towards this and building positive relationships with the community. So just a quick overview of the focus in 2022, which was the same as 2021. Personnel, engagement with the community, accountability, and excellence. So we're going to start with some of the community engagement. It's going to go through a couple slides of different events and things officers attended this year. One of the career days at one of the schools. There was several of these events we've gone to. Last year we went to some in several of the schools in the city and then also schools in Lower Lake. So the event we attended in the summer, very good event. We had a lot of positive contact with numerous people in the community. It was pretty good. We had additional staff in excess of what you see in the photo there that were at the location walking around during the event doing different things. So that was a pretty nice event for us. 4th of July event. Chili cook-off at the First Baptist Church. That was a nice event. We had two participants from the police department in there. Ultimately, we lost to a very good chili from a city hall employee, Crystal. It was quite tasty. Some more events that staff attended. One I was at the last council meeting, the Santa chair that Sergeant Peterson made. And then one of the other things we had at the Halloween event, that was a werewolf that was also made by Sergeant Peterson. Obviously, he's quite handy.
Well, and it also might help in promotions.
Yeah.
Here's a couple of photos at the this year. Most every year, the POA does a Thanksgiving giveaway where they have a complete meal, turkey, everything that would go with it, and they take those out to families that are in need in the community. Normally, they get the list sometimes from the schools or Victim Witness, different organizations that generally work with children, to find families that are in need of stuff, and they drop them off for them out at their house. I'm not sure on the number this year, but generally it's 25, sometimes 25 to 50 meals they give out. So it's a really good event. They normally have, I think this year also Foods Etc. was one of their big partners, and they help out a lot on getting this stuff with some really good discounts on items. This was the Shop with the Cop this year at Walmart, another really good event. I got a couple of our staff members up there that we're doing the shopping with. They're the kids. We have Jan with Code Enforcement. She was up there helping out too. And then on the right, we have Sergeant Ramirez. Another event that several members, or more than several people participated in last year was the Victim Witness Christmas Toy Drive, where toys are taken out to families that are in need. Quite often, these families are ones that are recipients of the Thanksgiving meals also. Generally, these ones in this event are picked by the schools for children that they know are in need of items. Just a couple photos of the motorcycles we got. Technically, we got them in 2021, but they weren't outfitted and ready to go until during 2022. We've had some people out doing some random patrols on them throughout the year. We've taken them to a lot of special events, parades, different things. But it's another handy tool to use, and it's pretty beneficial at having good, positive contact with the community. At a lot of the events we go to, it strikes up a lot of conversations between people that generally wouldn't be talking, or they don't have anything else to talk about, but they like seeing the motorcycles, so they'll come up, they'll start conversations with the officers and talk about lots of other things other than the motorcycles, but it's good at helping get some communication going. This is another one you'll probably recognize. It came out in 2021, but I'm just going to give you a quick update on it. This is the Q hit. It randomly sends out surveys to people that call the police department. If they're calling on a cellular phone, it will send out surveys to the people. Last year, we sent out approximately, in 2022, we sent out approximately 8,500 of the surveys. We got responses on about 4,500 of the surveys. And almost 90% of these surveys had positive results, or positive remarks. More than that were positive, but not all the people make comments. They just do the number rating. But these are just a quick view of some of the responses that people typed in. All right, now we'll go over some statistics for the, we'll start with the police department here. Calls for service, just over 22,500. Officer initiated incidents, 11,400. So the first section doesn't include the other one. So in total, we're at roughly 34,000 incidents that the officers handled last year. 2,033 arrests, and 3,661 reports were taken and completed by the officers. Traffic stops, 2,343 traffic stops. Overall percentage of injury collisions was down 1.25%. However, we had 2 additional fatal collisions, 2 additional major injury collisions, and what lowered the percentage was the 5 less minor collisions. Response times, the priority 1 calls, which are generally the more in progress calls for service. The time from the phone ringing at the police department to the officer arriving on scene, the average is 6 minutes, 25 seconds. Priority 2 calls, 12 minutes, 42 seconds. Go back a second there. The bottom number in the gray is what the average was last year. So in the priority 1, we somehow came out exactly the same at 6:25. Priority 2, we were a little bit slower this year, or in 2022. And then priority 3, both those were up a little bit. ALPR network, as you all know, we have the ALPR cameras throughout different locations in the city to give us alerts on stolen vehicles, vehicles that are wanted and associated with violent crimes, sometimes at risk missing persons, different things like that. Last year we had 46 cases we solved with those. They ranged from, typically they're stolen vehicles. We solved several missing person cases with them, and then they were useful in quite a few other investigations up to attempted homicides, helping track down people and help us in those. So it was very useful for us in 2022. We'll go over some code enforcement numbers here. You can see in the photo there, they're doing a little work, doing some cleanup with a little skid steer they were using. Property cases, 613 property cases, which is up 85 from last year. 805 vegetation cases, which is down a little bit. Vehicles abated, 630, which you can see is quite a bit higher than last year. Cannabis cases, 23, which is down about 108, which is a pretty big drop.
Yeah, that's.
But you'll see though, a lot of the focus this year was on vehicles, and there was a lot of vehicle cases, some property cases that took up a lot of time. The cannabis cases, the last couple years prior to this year, they were a lot easier to find and take action on those. There's still definitely cannabis out there, but the large grows that are in violation have dropped down significantly since the years prior. Administrative citations is up at just over 2,500, which is up 303 from last year. Parking sites is up to 866, up 477 from last year. So both those two are pretty significant increases. Vacant building registrations, cases on properties for being in violation. There was 18 last year. which is up 13 from the year before. In 2021, there was only 5 commercial buildings that were in violation of the ordinance. That's just the abandoned vehicle tags. Some of those get towed by us, some get towed by the owner. They go wherever they go. There was 1,161 of those, up 496 from the year before. So as you can see in those last couple slides, there are a lot of, like I said, a couple of the areas went down a little bit, but there was a lot of extra enforcement done on the vehicle issues. That's one of the main focuses. A lot of times these are on visible roadways leading into the town, main roads, stuff like that. So we want to try and keep as many of those as we can, not where they're seen, making things not look so well. Animal control numbers. That was a photo from I believe the Blue Zones event. That was the shuttle or cuddle shuttle they use for their animals. So there was, we're on the dog section right now. It's blocked out up top there, but in 2022, 389 dogs were taken in. 169 went to rescues. 30 were adopted. The difference there's numerous others went, I think there was 103 went back to owners, different things like that. In that section, the rescue doesn't count, like intertransfer to North Bay Animal Services, stuff like that. This is animal control, the cats. There was 236 taken in. 160 of them went to rescues, and 9 were adopted. As you can see in both those numbers, the adoption numbers are not too high. That's something we were working on before North Bay took over in the contract, and I know they're working on that, but it's unfortunately it's quite difficult to get animals out and adopted this year. It's been a little worse than the prior years, and from my understanding from talking with a lot of people in the animal world, it's not just a difficulty here. There's a lot of places that are really having a hard time since some of the COVID stuff on getting animals adopted out to new homes, and a lot of shelters are really full, just like the shelter we have is right now.
I was told the downturn in economy has a big hit on that too, Chief. Is that correct?
I haven't heard. I bet that is accurate though. Training. We'll go over a little training that was done this year. Some basic numbers here. This is just post-certified training. This doesn't count others. There's lots of other training that's not post-certified training that was done. 1,913 hours, 173 different courses. Some of it's perishable skills, some of it's advanced officer training, lots of other courses that were done. But again, that's the post-certified. We have another one here. We had in 2021, we had another Sergeant Elvis Cook. He went to the Post Supervisor Leadership Institute. Last year in 2022, Sergeant Peterson went. It's a extensive course that takes place over 9 months. They go for roughly a week every month for 9 months and cover lots of areas in supervision. It's a really good course, and we're lucky to have 2 people go the last 2 years and take part in that. Radar training, we had 3 more people certified in radar training near the early fall of last year. It's going to help us this year. We're starting to pick up in the radar enforcement and try and get out there and help slow people down. So having our numbers doubled to, I think we have, or almost doubled. We have 5 people that are radar certified now, and we have radar units for all those people. So that's something that we're going to be working on, trying to bump up the enforcement and see if we can have a little better impact on speeding around town. Some service recognitions that happened during 2022. Lieutenant Snyder got the 20-year one, 15 years for Sergeant Ryan Peterson, and then 5 years for Code Enforcement Technician Jan, and then 5 years for Officer Shores. Recruitment. We were down substantially in applicants from 2021. 2021, we had just over double the numbers for applicants. We were 56 or 57. Of those 23, 6 made it into backgrounds. Of those 6, 3 were hired. So that was good. That took us to, at the time, last year, we were only one position short, so that was really good to get those 3 on board. And the 3 of them that we hired, 2 of them got off training just before Christmas, and they're doing really well. They went through the program, got off on time, which was very nice, and they're doing well. The third one, he is about probably, I think he's 6 or 7 weeks into the training program, so he's about a third of the way done. He's doing really good too. So we're definitely excited that we've had these 3 people go through the program at a good pace and be doing really well. In the dispatch recruitment, we had 28 applicants for dispatch in 2022. We had 2 make it to backgrounds, and we hired 1, the one in the photo. That's dispatcher Waller. With that position, we were full at the time, so we did not, last year we didn't have any other vacancies for dispatch at that time. Now with the promotion of the communications and records supervisor this year, we have 1 vacancy in dispatch, which we are currently recruiting for. Retirements, we had 2 retirements last year. The communications and records supervisor, Sherry Van Ness, and then Captain Tim Sully. There's a photo from the Lower Lake Parade this year. Got the 2 motorcycles in that. They each had a driver and a passenger, as you can see on there. And if anyone has any questions.
Any questions for the chief? Chief Hobbs, thank you for your presentation. Really appreciate that. Well done. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, sorry, I had 2 questions. The vegetation cases, you said there was 805 of those. What's the percentage of unique cases versus repeat offenders?
I could not tell you that right now.
Okay. And then the other question was around the vacant building registration. It went from, it's an increase in 13. Is that just getting more folks to sign up? Is that?
Yes, those numbers were for the businesses that were in violation and did not sign up. So I think a lot of them initially, I think each year we've been getting a little better compliance. Some of them, I mean, the steps are pretty well spelled out, I think, but some of them, the initial steps they have to take, doing the application, turning the thing in. I know the first couple of years there was a lot of places that were having a difficulty in turning the things in, and then getting on board with turning their monthly documents in. So I think that was part of the problem where we're giving them a little leeway initially, and then some of the locations that just were not complying, we got to the point where, instead of just, giving them more and more time, we started doing some cases on them and giving them citations.
Great. Good job. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Anything on Zoom, Madam Clerk?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
And Councilmember Slotin, I apologize, I forgot to ask if you had any questions.
I had no questions. The comment is the increase in animal control is somewhat worrisome. I've heard a lot of different explanations, but it's something I think we need to watch because it could get out of hand here shortly.
Thank you, sir. Very good. Thank you, Chief. Moving on to the next item, the consent agenda. Is there anyone who would like to make a change to the consent agenda? Seeing none, anybody in Zoom wanting to pull an item from the consent agenda? And have it heard? No? Nobody in Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor, no hands raised on Zoom.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
I have a motion by Councilmember Kramer and a second by Vice Mayor Claffey. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Councilmember Slotin?
Aye.
Councilmember Overton?
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Claffey?
Aye.
Mayor Purdock?
Aye. Moving on to business. First item is discussion and consideration of direct sales of tax defaulted properties from the County of Lake. Mr. Flora.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. So, one of the best things that's happened this year has been a new tax collector. And we've had a lot of discussions with Mr. Sullivan, and he's very willing to work with us and strategize about addressing the tax delinquency issues, not only here in the city of Clearlake, but throughout the county. So one thing that we have been interested in doing for a number of years, but have been unable to do, is as a taxing agency, we have the ability under state law to do direct sale agreements with the county. So if there's properties that for one reason or another we would like to purchase directly from the county, we can do that outside of the auction process. And so that's what I'm asking for here is I've been working with the tax collector. There's about 20 or 25 properties which I believe for a variety of reasons would be in the city's interest to purchase. Sort of, you know, not as a long-term solution really in any of these cases, but as a way to break the cycle on some problems that you know, have become a blight on the community and whatnot because of their status. I don't have a list in here because I still believe that it's prudent and in the city's best interest not to publicly disclose those properties at this time that we would like to try and purchase. I'm happy to talk individually with council members about that if you would like to see a little bit more, but the tax collector is moving forward on an auction which is scheduled for May. Will be coming up, and we have been able to work together on what properties the city would like to see on the auction, which we would like to have pulled off the auction, which we have the ability to ask, and those requests have been honored by the new tax collector. So, but there's an application process that's outlined by the state controller, and so with your authorization, I'd like to begin preparing that application. And so at this time, I'm asking for authorization to do that and to spend up to $150,000 on these various tax defaulted properties. So keep in mind, this is not something that, you know, I think we should do to have additional property in our inventory, but to break the cycle on various things. There's a number of parcels that are not well suited for development with the way they're situated, but the city has additional advantages in being able to merge properties and sort of prepare them for sale. And so I guess with that, that's kind of the background. I know it's a little bit vague, which I think is prudent at this time, but I'll be happy to try and address any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Flora. Councilmember Overton has a question.
Yeah, I'm just, do any of these properties, no specifics, but any of these properties have homes that are rehabable, or are they all?
There are two of them that have homes that I think are rehabable, and I think, you know, I don't really, it's not my favorite thing to get in this situation, but these are homes that I think that we can help sort of flip the cycle on. One of them is very blighted in a high visibility area that, you know, we haven't been able to resolve in other ways, and I think it might make sense to put some effort into that particular one, and then, you know, just make sure we have some quality housing. We can have a direct impact on that.
And then the other ones are more like, you said you want to merge them to make them where they're habitable, where we could do something with them, or clean them up because they have tore up.
Correct, a variety of them that have development potential either for commercial or single-family residential.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for our city manager? Anyone in the gallery like to make a comment or ask a question? Seeing none, anyone on Zoom, Madam Clerk?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
I'd like to bring it back to council for action.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the city manager to submit an application for direct sale of various tax defaulted properties for up to $150,000.
Second?
I have a motion by Councilmember Kramer and a second by Vice Mayor Claffey. Madam Clerk, could you call the vote?
Councilmember Slotin?
Aye.
Councilmember Overton?
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Claffey?
Aye.
Mayor Purdock?
Aye. Moving on to item 13, consideration of a resolution 2023-10, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Clearlake approving, authorizing, and directing the execution of a joint exercise of powers agreement, JPA, by and among the City of Clearlake, City of Lakeport, and County of Lake to form the Lake County Recreation Agency. Mr. Flora.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, council members, we've talked about this a few times before, as recently as a couple of meetings ago, an update on this. And so what's before you tonight is the actual joint powers agreement that would be executed by all the three entities. I don't know that I necessarily need to go into a lot of details on this. There is only one point that I would mention right now, which I think previously I told you that we originally had a draft where we were proposing that each of the elected bodies appoint 2 members to the JPA, one of which had to be a member of the elected body and one did not. After further discussions, it was recommended by the group that both of those appointees be members of the elected body. And then those 6 members would appoint one additional person for a total of 7. So that's one change. Hopefully you've had a time to review the agreement. In some ways, we've tried to, put detail on how things would be organized, but also leave future flexibility so the JPA could create further structure as appropriate without modification of it. And then the final thing that we're asking is not only to approve the resolution authorizing the signature of this, but to make a determination on the 2 members who would sit on that board from your city council. And then our plan would be, once all the jurisdictions approve this, that sort of the handoff would happen. We mentioned before, we're already in the process of doing the 2-phase polling. And so the JPA would be involved in that. And that polling is, I think, pretty much the final draft is done, and that'll be going out. And we did address concerns that were raised by Councilmember Overton, I believe. So anyway, with that, I'll try to address any other specific questions you may have, but that's kind of the overview on where we are.
Thank you, Mr. Flora. Any questions by council members at this point? Seeing none, any member of the community want to make a comment? Any hand on the Zoom?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Bring it back to council for action. Or would you like, prior to making a motion, is anyone interested in serving on this committee? Vice Mayor.
Yeah, so I was involved in some of the pre-meetings for this. I am really bullish on this project. I'd love to be involved if the council so chooses. I think this is a great opportunity, not only for us here in Clearlake, but to show great partnership between all the city and the county as well. So throw it out there. Thank you.
I'm also interested in serving on that committee.
Thank you, Councilmember Slotin. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Anyone else? Go ahead. With that, someone like to make a motion?
Yes, I guess I will. Let me figure out how. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-10, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Clearlake approving, authorizing, and directing the execution of a joint exercise of powers agreement by and among the City of Clearlake, the City of Lakeport, and the County of Lake to form the Lake County Recreation Agency. And would you like to do a separate motion on the other?
I believe you can include,
Okay. And further appoint two members, Councilman Slotin and Vice Mayor Claffey, to serve on that board.
I'll second.
well done. I have a motion by Councilmember Kramer and a second by Councilmember Overton. Madam Clerk, could you call the vote?
Councilmember Slotin,
Aye.
Councilmember Overton,
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Claffey,
Aye.
and Mayor Purdock.
Aye. Next item, consideration of updates to the City Council norms and procedures, Resolution 2023-13. Madam Clerk?
Honorable Mayor and council members, I'll give a brief overview of the changes in the norms and procedures that we're proposing tonight. Just know that at the next council meeting, we do plan to give a more in-depth dive into the council members' norms and procedures as requested and as we do normally. So just a brief overview of the changes for tonight. So with the end of the emergency declaration related to COVID-19, restrictions on teleconferencing and the noticing of meetings thereof will return to the pre-pandemic requirements. However, through January 1st of 26, AB 2449 will allow for emergency provisions for teleconference participation. It allows a non-majority number of legislative body members to utilize teleconferencing without publicly noticing their location and making that location accessible to the public in certain circumstances. Those certain circumstances are for just cause, and just cause is outlined in the law. Those just cause reasons are childcare needs, a contagious illness, physical or mental disability not otherwise accommodated by the ADA, travel while on official business of the legislative body or another state or local agency, or in emergency circumstances, which are defined as a physical or emergent or family emergency that prevents a member from attending in person. Those are the only reasons that a non-noticed teleconferencing attendance would be allowed. So remote participation under AB 2449 would be contingent on the request to and action by the legislative body. The member must request that the legislative body approve that remote participation due to emergency circumstances. If that request does not allow for sufficient time to place that proposed action on the agenda for the meeting. So there are certain things that the member must do before the council allows that participation to happen remotely. Those are all outlined within the staff report and within the norms and procedures. So there is a limit to the number of times a council member or a committee member may do that. No more than 3 consecutive months or 20% of the regular meetings. So staff recommends continuing the use of teleconference technology for all legislative bodies to broadcast the city council and board commission committee meetings, allow remote public participation. So we would continue to have the Zoom meetings as we do now. That would allow the staff and consultants to participate in the meetings via teleconference, and for emergency situations such as those explained, that would allow for remote participation of members. So based on this recommendation, we've updated those norms and procedures to reflect those changes in the Brown Act. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's just a brief overview. And as I said, we will be giving a presentation, City Attorney Jones and myself, at the next council meeting in a little bit more depth. And I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilmember Overton?
So when it says an emergency, can a council member can participate if he notices if, ahead of time, such as where our council member Slutin is, if they're told ahead of time? Is that correct?
If it is an emergency or just cause, so travel while on official business is allowed, personal travel is not. Emergency circumstances such as a physical or family emergency are allowed. Child care needs, a contagious illness, things like that. However,
No, but no, just general, I'm gonna be on vacation.
No,
I
that
can't
is
be
not
here.
allowed.
You know ahead of time.
You could still notice it the old way,
Right.
which was you identify your location for the city clerk that's posted on the agenda and you put it on the outside of your door.
I've done that. Okay.
That hasn't changed.
Okay.
Councilmember Slotin.
Several years ago, I participated from Strasbourg, so that where I had to post outside the door and outside the door of our hotel room. But, so that's the same as it is now, but I can't do it without publicly noticing both the council and the location that I'm in. Is that correct?
that is correct. So the regulations have gone back to pre-pandemic regulations. So whereas you could do that before COVID-19 emergency was declared, and that eliminated the need for those noticing requirements, but that has been lifted.
Okay. No further comment.
Thank you. Any other questions by council? Any questions by a member of the community here or on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
I'll bring it back for action.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make the motion to accept resolution number 2023-13, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Clearlake amending rules governing the norms and procedures for city council members and city council commissioners, committees, and board meetings.
Second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Councilmember
I
Overton
didn't jump in that.
Give it to him.
and a second by Councilmember Slotin. Madam Clerk, can you call the vote?
Councilmember Slotin?
Aye.
Councilmember Overton?
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Claffey?
Aye.
And Mayor Purdock?
Aye. Moving on to our last agenda item for the evening, an introduction and for first reading of ordinance 268-2023, amending chapter 10,
It was like a,
section 10-1.12 of the Clearlake Municipal Code relating to the method of service for property maintenance, nuisance and vehicle abatement.
I'm going to take that, Mr. Mayor, if that's okay.
That would be wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
So,
All yours.
good evening to the council and the honorable mayor. Wanted to bring this in consultation with the police department and Chief Hobbs. This is a cleanup of chapter 10-1.12 related to property abatement sections. What we realized is that when we recently updated section 1-9 with regard to method of service, meaning when you notice people of abatement or notices, how you do that, we wanted to be consistent. There was some inconsistencies between the two, and mainly with regard to sending these certified mail. The law doesn't require it to be done by certified mail, so first-class mail is how we're proposing to put this in the ordinance. We do send the final abatement notice by certified mail to property owners or the tenant, depending on the situation. So this is not a substantive change to any of our abatement procedures or what constitutes any nuisance in the city. It's purely an update on due process, and this doesn't impede due process, doesn't hinder it in any way. It's really best practices in making sure our code is internally consistent with other provisions. So we'd look for a first reading tonight and to move this on for a second reading and adoption at our next regular council meeting. And if there's any questions, myself or the chief would be happy to answer those.
This is ordinance number what again?
Chapter 10.
Well, the ordinance itself, let's see,
Well, I'm looking at the ordinance, which is blank.
no, 268-2023.
268, okay.
Yeah. We will fill that in for there, but it's on the agenda.
Any other questions or comments? Anyone from, yes, please come forward. You would mind introducing yourself?
Cheryl Almond, City of Clear Lake. I thank you for doing this. It sounds like we're getting back on track again, but I have noticed there's been a real lapse in repetitive problems, either with vehicles or maintenance of property, but also farm animals. We're getting a lot of goats, we're getting a lot of chickens. We call the police department, there really isn't anything that they've been able to do about it. But when you live next to 5 or 6 goats that keep getting into your yard and eating your plants, it's kind of saddening for us. So I don't know if that is something that we can recognize that is part of this as well. So thank you, I appreciate that. And I know we have at times made really great efforts and great strides. But as I come through my neighborhood now, I would say we've dropped 20% out of 100% in the last couple of years. So I'd really appreciate getting back to a little bit stricter and follow through. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Good. Do I have a motion?
What was the ordinance number on that?
268.
268? Or 2268?
268-2023.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make the motion that we accept ordinance number 268-2023, an ordinance amending Chapter 10, Section 10-1.12 of the Clear Lake Municipal Code related to method of service for the property maintenance, nuisance, and vehicle abatement.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. I have a motion by Councilmember Overton and a second by Councilmember Kramer. Madam Clerk, can you call the vote?
Councilmember Slotin?
Aye.
Councilmember Overton?
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Claffey?
Aye.
And Mayor Purdock.
Aye. Thank you all very much for putting this together. Now moving on to City Manager and Council Members' reports. Mr. Flora.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, council members, just a couple items. I don't recall that mentioned this to the council, so, and I don't know if you've noticed it, but we are producing a Spanish agenda now. This was something that Mayor Slotin was very adamant about trying for us to do, and so Ms. Swanson worked quite hard, and I think perhaps Danielle as well, in figuring that out. There, as you can imagine, there are some challenges with making sure that things are translated correctly and all that, but the Spanish agenda is available on our website, so thanks both to Mr. Slotin and Melissa for making sure that that all came together. It's not the full agenda packet, but the agenda itself. So I wanted to point out, just for awareness in the community, the Career Point, which is sort of a arm of the Workforce Alliance of the North Bay, which Lake, Mendocino, Marin, and Napa counties are part of. This is the group that's supposed to do workforce training in our community, and there's really a lot of additional work that needs to be done with this group. Their focus, I don't really feel like, has been on Lake County as much as it should be, but nonetheless, they recently created an app. So if you were to search for Career Point North Bay, this app has notices for hiring events, access to training services, hiring appointments, and various things. And hopefully, it's going to be further developed into allowing employers to actually post jobs through there and whatnot. So it's something you might want to take a look at and share with your constituents. Next week, Tuesday, the 21st, we're going to be hosting a skate park design workshop. So that's related to the design contract that was approved recently. So at 5 p.m., there's going to be a skate session at the skate park. And then here in the City Council chambers at 6 p.m., there's going to be a community input meeting. So this has been shared on social media and various things and flyers, and Supervisor Sabatier and others are helping get the word out on that. So it'll be, hopefully we'll get plenty of input from the community on that design. Last thing I wanted to mention is we're still accepting Planning Commission applications through Wednesday of next week. So if you know anyone that might be interested in serving on that role, please encourage them to go to the website and fill out the application, or you can contact Ms. Swanson for any additional details on that. That's my report.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Slotin, how are things in your jurisdiction?
My current location is wet and very comfortable. I'm enjoying myself. Getting too much sunburn, but I guess that's part of the experience. I really didn't attend any meetings, so I have nothing to report.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Overton.
Okay, well, I wanted to announce that when Julie Burrows' services is going to be online tomorrow night at 6 p.m. It's on a website at www.calvarychapel, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce this one, the name of this town, but it's CLEELUM.com at 6 o'clock. And it's also will be on YouTube, basically the youtube.com at Calvary Chapel, CLEELUM, new 8722 /streams, it says. So I was hoping that I had asked when I seen Tina if we could get some flowers. I don't know if that ever happened, but maybe, I know it's Thursday, so it's kind of late, so maybe I'll send some flowers in all our names, if that's okay.
Thank you.
That'd be good.
I wanted to just kind of do that, and I'd like,
Councilmember Overton, if you could just share Julie's years of service here for those who may not remember her working here.
she served, I'm not quite sure exactly how many years, it was close to 20, wasn't it? 15, 20? Yeah, do you remember?
I think she was about, 18? More than 20, yeah.
Yeah.
She started in Public Works
Right.
and ended her career here as our assistant planner.
So, I mean, she's been very involved in our community, and we're looking for pictures if anybody has any. We've only been able to find a couple. She wasn't a big picture person, but we'd like to try to find some more. So if anybody out there has some, her family would appreciate some more pictures. But they got what they have right at the moment, but they'd like to have some more. So, it's just, I just think that, she served a lot of years here, and I'd like to maybe at our next meeting do the meeting in her name, recognizing her as a good, contributor to our community. I think her family would appreciate that. So next was I have joined Lake Links. It was very interesting. I hope I can help the board maybe accomplish some things that our community needs. It's going to be a hard go, but I'm looking for grants for the senior center. Hopefully I can find some transportation grants that can help that entity out to get that up and going, and more out to our seniors and disabled to get them some help. So, and Russ will kick me off if he doesn't like me. So, and then the only thing I had our board meeting for the Clearlake Senior Center, and we are doing our hoedown in March, on March 25th, and we have tickets for sale, and you can also be able to purchase them online as of tomorrow. I have to get that up at our hsssclearlake.org, and the tickets are only $40, so we're not as high as everybody else. So it's good for the community to come and support your senior centers. I'm trying to keep us from ending up in the same situation we had before the pandemic, which was closing. So we serve, just so everybody knows, we serve 200 people approximately every single day. So, without us, those people will go without food. So we really need to try to keep this senior center, up and running. So I hope that the community supports us on this event. And I believe that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kramer.
Yes, I actually attended an APC LTA meeting last week. Probably the thing of most note would be that our member at large, Chuck Leonard, has decided to step down, so there'll be an opening for another member at large. At that, I'll let Mayor Burdock talk about any other things that happened at that meeting. Lake Links, as Joyce just said, she has agreed to join our board, and I am extremely happy to see her on board. She knows a lot more about what we do at Lake Links already than I probably do. I kind of focus on the costs, but want to welcome you, Joyce, and I know you're going to do a great job for us. And last, I was approached by Will Evans at Clerk, Clearlake Environmental Research, I forget the C. Anyhow, has asked me to join their board, which I probably will be doing. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. No meetings to report on. I did want to just share that the Rotary Club is now selling individual tickets for the seafood boil next Saturday, February 25th, over at the Cornelius Center up by the community college there. So if you're looking for tickets, check out the website for the Clearlake Rotary and join us that night.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor / President of our Rotary Club. Go ahead, Mr. Kramer.
I do have, that reminded me of.
There's always a do-over.
A do-over, yes. Speaking of dinners coming up, Lower Lake Community Action Group, of which I'm president, has a crab chipino feed coming up on March 3rd. And we have, after we actually moved our venue because we oversold the tickets we had for where we are, we're now going to be at the Masonic Lodge on March 3rd, 6 p.m. And I do have a few tickets still available for certain members that haven't bought two yet. They'll remain unnamed. Anyhow, we do have a few tickets left over, and it's $50. It's slightly more than Councilwoman Overton's tickets, but a lot less than our Rotary Seafood Boil tickets.
You're rambling, sir.
I am not rambling, and I am speaking very clearly of what's there. That's all I have now.
All right. I have nothing to add for the Lake APC LTA meeting other than to thank Mr. Leonard for his years of service, not only on that board, but service here for the city of Clearlake as a volunteer with code enforcement. He and a couple other gentlemen did a lot of work for us, and I really appreciate that time. But it's time I know that.
Mayor Burdock, I cannot hear you.
That's because I had my mic turned off. Thank you, Councilmember Slotin, for catching that. I wanted to thank Chuck Leonard for his years of service on the LTA and APC board. He did some really good things. He's also part of the executive committee, and he will be missed for sure. Very knowledgeable gentleman. Also for his time serving as a volunteer here for the city of Clearlake and code enforcement and many other capacities. His time will be missed, but I know he's got other things he should be doing. With that, I'd like to thank and commend everyone at the Clearlake Chamber of Commerce, elected a new board and new officers. They will be installed. Unfortunately, there was a little outbreak of a new strain of COVID, so we had to cancel that installation dinner with the Clearlake Oaks Business Association. But I understand we'll reschedule that, and those officers will be installed at that time. And that concludes my report. Any future agenda items by any of the members of the council? Seeing none, that concludes our meeting. We are closed.
I was gonna say, we're not through.
Oh, wait. We will adjourn to closed session. Conference with legal.